The alien princess declined to submit. Until the human warrior defeated her in battle, the air above Zithra shimmered like liquid crystal, reflecting the pale light of its twin suns. Towering spires of transparent metal rose from the surface, some connected by bridges that hovered in the sky. Floating islands drifted above the cities, casting shifting shadows on the streets below. It was a world of beauty and danger, a place where every citizen knew their place and every visitor was tested before they could earn respect. At the heart of the capital stood the royal palace, a vast structure carved from luminous stone. Its walls seemed to glow from within, and countless sharp spires rose toward the heavens. The palace was home to Princess Liara, the youngest heir of the Zitharan Empire, known across her people not only for her beauty, but for her unmatched skill in combat. Stories of her victories in the arena, her precision with energy blades, and her ability to defeat opponents far stronger than herself had traveled to every corner of Zithara. She was proud, stubborn, and unyielding, traits that made her both admired and feared. On this morning, a new figure arrived in the capital, stepping off a sleek, silver ship that had appeared above the city without warning. The craft was unlike any Zitharan design, its hull curved in ways that defied conventional engineering. From its hatch emerged a human, tall and lean, with broad shoulders and an air of calm confidence. His name was Cole, and he had traveled across galaxies, facing challenges that few other humans could even imagine. Cole moved with careful attention, observing the alien architecture and customs around him. Citizens turned their heads, whispering as he passed. His eyes were sharp, taking in every detail, the way the floating islands balanced above the city, the glow of energy flowing through the streets, and the faint hum of technology that seemed alive. Though he was a stranger in every sense, he walked as if he belonged. Word of his arrival quickly reached the palace. Princess Liara, seated in her high chamber, observed the reports on her crystal display, her brow furrowed. A human on Zithara. She had encountered humans before during trade missions and diplomatic visits, but none had shown the confidence or skill necessary to challenge her world. Most were weak, easily frightened, and prone to mistakes. Yet this one, Cole, carried himself differently. The data indicated he had a history of survival against impossible odds. Liara tapped her fingers against the armrest of her throne. Pride surged through her. Humans were not to be underestimated, but she doubted any could match her in combat. She decided she would observe him, test his skills, and determine whether he was a threat, or merely an interesting anomaly. Meanwhile, Cole explored the city, taking care to respect local customs. He avoided drawing unnecessary attention while still demonstrating his competence. When he passed a group of young Zitharans struggling to repair a malfunctioning hover cart, he offered a simple suggestion. With a few adjustments, the cart lifted smoothly, gliding over the street. The children stared at him in awe, and one whispered to the others, "He moves like he understands the world differently." Though he meant no harm, the story of his cleverness spread quickly. Citizens debated what kind of human this was. Some saw a hero, others a dangerous interloper. The council of advisors who served under Princess Liara grew uneasy. They respected the princess's judgment, but humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability could be dangerous. That evening, Cole arrived at a grand hall where he was scheduled to meet local officials. The hall was vast, with high ceilings and walls embedded with crystal panels that reflected light in every direction. Zitharan guards, tall and armed with energy spears, flanked every doorway. Cole stepped forward calmly, hands visible and relaxed. He understood that in a world like this, subtle cues mattered more than words. When Liara entered the hall, silence fell. She was taller than most of her people, with flowing silver hair and eyes that seemed to pierce through lies. Her armor, elegant yet functional, hinted at her combat prowess. Cole noticed the precision in her movements, the controlled energy in her gestures. He did not bow immediately. Instead, he nodded respectfully, a small gesture acknowledging her status while asserting his own confidence. Liara's lips curved into a slight smile. She appreciated courage when it was genuine. "You are far from home, human," she said. Her voice was calm, but it carried weight. "Do you know what you have entered?" Cole tilted his head slightly. "I have traveled many worlds," he replied evenly. "I understand that customs differ, and I intend to respect them. I also intend to learn what I can." The princess studied him, sensing no arrogance in his words, only curiosity and quiet strength. Most humans would have cowered in her presence, but he did not. That alone made him unusual. She decided to observe him further before making a judgment. In the days that followed, Cole navigated the complexities of Zitharan society. He learned to operate their transportation systems, deciphered the energy grids powering their cities, and demonstrated adaptability that left even seasoned Zitharans impressed. The more he showed his skill, the more Liara's curiosity grew. She arranged a private demonstration, inviting him to her personal training arena. It was a massive chamber suspended above the palace grounds, with platforms floating midair and holographic obstacles that tested agility, strength, and strategy. Liara expected him to falter quickly, to be overwhelmed by alien weapons and combat scenarios he had never encountered. Cole entered the arena without hesitation. He moved with a careful mixture of observation and instinct, avoiding attacks and analyzing patterns. His human reflexes allowed him to anticipate movements and adapt in real time. Liara watched closely, testing him with more complex challenges, some designed to confuse, others to harm. Yet Cole endured them all, not with brute force, but with creativity and quick thinking. By the end of the session, Liara found herself genuinely impressed. "You survive well," she admitted. "More than I expected from a human." Cole offered a simple smile. "Survival is not only about strength. It is about understanding the environment, predicting outcomes, and acting decisively." Liara considered his words. For the first time, she wondered if humans could be more than what her people believed. Perhaps they were not simply fragile creatures, but beings capable of ingenuity, courage, and honor. Meanwhile, unrest stirred among her council. Some feared that allowing a human to demonstrate such skill could undermine the hierarchy of their society. Others argued that it was a chance to form a powerful alliance. Liara listened to their concerns but made no immediate decision. Pride and curiosity warred within her. She would not submit to a human, yet she could not ignore his abilities. A week passed, and Cole's reputation spread across the capital. Citizens began to whisper stories of the human who moved through challenges with grace, who solved problems thought impossible, and who refused to bow blindly to authority. Liara heard these stories with growing interest and caution. Her pride demanded that she remain distant, but her mind could not ignore the evidence of his skill. Then came the announcement: a formal challenge would be issued. In Zitharan culture, a challenge was the highest form of judgment. It was not only a test of strength, but of intellect, courage, and honor. Whoever faced the challenge was either deemed worthy or dismissed as inferior. The challenge was public, taking place in the floating arena above the city, where thousands could watch. Liara stood on her observation platform, her silver hair flowing in the wind. She held her energy blade in one hand, its hum filling the air. Her eyes scanned the arena below, where Cole stood calmly, ready for whatever she intended. Pride and curiosity filled her, intertwining in a way that both unnerved and intrigued her. Cole did not speak. He understood the stakes. For him, the challenge was more than a test of strength. It was an opportunity to prove the value of humanity, not through arrogance but through courage, skill, and creativity. He studied the arena, noting its obstacles and the positioning of platforms. In his mind, he began to plan, not just to survive, but to demonstrate what humans could achieve when they refused to bow to fear or pride. Liara activated the arena systems. Holographic barriers shifted, platforms moved, and energy fields sparked unpredictably. The trial had begun. As Cole advanced, dodging the first wave of attacks, Liara watched with a mixture of anticipation and respect. Every move he made revealed intelligence, adaptability, and an unyielding spirit. The crowd below murmured, first in shock, then in awe. A human had entered the challenge, and he was not only surviving, he was thriving. Liara clenched her fists, feeling the first pangs of uncertainty she had ever experienced. Could this human truly be her equal? Her mind raced, but her pride would not allow her to yield. She would continue the test, pushing him to his limits. Yet somewhere deep inside, she sensed that the outcome might not be what she or her people expected. And so the trial began in earnest. Cole faced each obstacle with calm focus, each strike with precise timing, and each strategy with human ingenuity. Liara realized that this was more than a simple test of strength. It was a meeting of worlds, a confrontation of pride and perseverance, and a chance for something extraordinary to emerge. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the arena, Neither combatant showed weakness. Neither faltered. In the hearts of the citizens watching, a question began to take root. Could a human truly match the might of Princess Liara? And if so, what would it mean for the future of Zithra and beyond? The arena pulsed with energy, the floating platforms shifting above the city like living creatures. Thousands of citizens gathered, their eyes fixed on the scene. Holographic barriers flickered, and streams of light traced complex patterns across the air. Princess Liara stood poised on her platform, her silver armor gleaming under the twin suns. Her energy blade hummed softly, a promise of skill and danger. She was ready to test the human warrior who had so far defied all expectations. Cole stepped forward, his boots barely making a sound on the polished surface. He did not carry weapons, his strength and mind were his tools. He had studied the arena during its setup, noting the floating platforms, energy fields, and holographic traps. Every detail mattered. He understood that survival depended not on brute strength alone, but on observation, timing, and creativity. The crowd hushed as Liara raised her blade. The trial began with a surge of energy, a pulse that activated hidden platforms and projected holographic obstacles across the arena. Liara moved first, gliding with fluid precision, her attacks swift and calculated. Every strike was meant to test Cole, to push him toward defeat, yet he remained calm, his eyes analyzing each movement. He dodged her first strike by rolling under a swinging energy whip, using the momentum to vault onto a higher platform. Liara's brow furrowed. He was fast, faster than most humans, and his reflexes were precise. She increased the difficulty, summoning holographic duplicates of herself to attack from multiple angles. Each projection was almost indistinguishable from the real princess, and yet Cole handled them with a mixture of agility and clever observation. He feinted, ducked, and timed his movements to avoid being struck. The crowd murmured, astonished. Humans had never been known for combat skill in this way. Some citizens whispered doubts while others watched in awe. The trial was supposed to be a show of superiority for Liara, yet it had become a stage for the human to shine. Liara's expression hardened. She had never faced an opponent like him. Most challengers broke under pressure, faltered in their movements, or surrendered to fear. Cole showed no fear. He adapted to every challenge she threw at him, using his environment to his advantage. Holographic walls. He ducked, slid, and used them to spring toward another platform. Energy traps. He observed the pulse patterns and leapt through gaps she had thought impossible to navigate. For the first time, Liara felt uncertainty. She increased the pace, sending a barrage of attacks from her blade, combining speed, strength, and deceptive angles. Yet Cole met her with creativity, using momentum from one attack to deflect another, spinning through the air to gain a better vantage. It was a dance of strategy and skill, a meeting of two different ways of thinking about combat. One honed through tradition and discipline, the other shaped by adaptability and quick wit. Cole realized that the key to this trial was not defeating Liara with raw force, but earning her respect through ingenuity. He calculated his next moves carefully, anticipating her tactics while introducing unpredictability. At one point, he triggered a series of platforms in a sequence she had not expected, forcing her to leap and spin in ways that tested her precision. She landed gracefully but not without exertion, a small bead of sweat forming on her brow. The arena responded to their movements. Platforms shifted faster, energy pulses became more erratic, and holographic walls sprang into place, trying to box Cole in. He smiled faintly, seeing the opportunity. Using a combination of speed and timing, he leapt from one moving platform to another, narrowly avoiding energy pulses that could have thrown him into the void. Liara watched, impressed despite herself. The human was not only surviving but forcing her to adjust her strategies. She had expected a display of skill but not this level of adaptability. His mind worked differently, anticipating consequences she had not considered. It was a rare thing in Zithra, a mind unbound by tradition, yet disciplined in action. As the trial progressed, Cole began to turn the challenge in his favor. He drew Liara into positions where she had to react quickly, using her own energy against her. At one point, he ducked under a spinning blade, rolling along a platform and using the momentum to push her duplicate projections into each other, temporarily confusing her. Liara's eyes widened. She had underestimated him. The crowd erupted in gasps and whispers. They had never seen the princess struggle against any opponent, yet here she was, challenged not by another Zitharan but by a human. The tension in the arena was palpable. Citizens leaned forward, eager to see if the human would be defeated or if he would do the impossible. Liara paused for a moment, reassessing. She realized that the trial was no longer about humiliation or proving superiority. It was about mutual recognition of skill. She intensified her attacks, combining precision strikes with unpredictable feints. Cole responded by thinking one step ahead, using timing and observation to counter her moves. Every strike they exchanged was a test of wits as much as strength. At one point, Cole took a calculated risk. He leapt from a high platform, dodging a series of energy beams, and landed directly in front of Liara. In a swift motion, he used a holographic projection to reflect one of her strikes, forcing her to step back. The crowd gasped again. He had made a move that no one had expected, demonstrating both courage and intelligence. Liara's chest rose and fell as she adjusted her breathing. She could no longer dismiss this human as weak or inferior. He was different, extraordinary in ways that few Zitharans could understand. For the first time, she felt a sense of challenge that was not only physical but mental. Her respect for him grew, though she would not admit it aloud. Cole, too, realized the significance of his actions. He was not merely surviving. He was showing that humanity could rise to the occasion, that ingenuity and courage could stand against even the most skilled warriors of Zithara. Every movement, every decision in the arena was a statement of what humans could achieve when they refused to submit blindly. The trial reached its climax as Liara summoned her final set of challenges. Floating platforms shifted rapidly, energy walls moved unpredictably, and holographic projections attacked simultaneously. Cole adapted quickly, leaping, sliding, and using the arena's mechanics to his advantage. He dodged, countered, and finally, with a calculated move, landed a non-lethal strike that disarmed one of her projections. Liara froze, her eyes widening. The human had succeeded in a move that required both courage and foresight. He had not merely survived, he had impressed her in a way no other challenger had. For the first time, she acknowledged the possibility that humans could be worthy of respect. The crowd erupted in cheers. Some shouted in disbelief, while others applauded the display of skill and ingenuity. Cole stood tall, breathing steadily, showing neither arrogance nor fear. His victory, though small and symbolic, carried weight. It was proof that humans could adapt, survive, and excel even in worlds that seemed impossible to master. Liara lowered her blade slowly, a mixture of pride and surprise on her face. She approached Cole, her steps deliberate and controlled. She did not speak at first, allowing the moment to settle. Then, in a calm but firm voice, she said, "You have done well, human. I did not expect such skill nor such adaptability. You have earned my recognition." Cole inclined his head respectfully. "Thank you, Princess Liara. I did what I could. The rest is up to your judgment." There was a brief pause as she considered him. Most challengers had bowed, admitted defeat, or fled. He had neither. His courage, combined with intelligence and adaptability, made him unique. She realized that this trial, meant to display her superiority, had become a meeting of equals. The crowd continued to cheer, some chanting his name, others marveling at the rare sight of a human challenging a Zitharan princess and succeeding. Liara allowed herself a faint smile. "Perhaps humans are not as weak as we once believed," she admitted quietly, though only Cole heard. Cole nodded. "We survive because we learn, adapt, and refuse to give up. It is not always strength that matters most." Liara regarded him thoughtfully. There was pride in her gaze, not just in her own abilities, but in the fact that someone from another world could demonstrate such qualities. For the first time, she saw potential in humanity beyond mere curiosity or diplomacy. They were capable of honor, ingenuity, and courage that could rival any civilization. As the trial concluded, Cole helped Liara retrieve her disarmed blade, a small gesture of respect and partnership. She accepted it, her fingers brushing his briefly, a silent acknowledgement of the connection forged in the heat of combat. The citizens of Zithara watched in awe, understanding that this event marked a turning point, not just for the human who had arrived on their world, but for their own perspective on outsiders. Liara returned to her platform, standing tall and composed. She had been defeated in a way she had not anticipated, not through brute force, but through strategy, adaptability, and courage. Her pride remained intact, but now it was tempered by respect. She would no longer dismiss humans as inferior. They had proven that they could rise to challenges even the most skilled Zitharan warriors might struggle with. Cole looked around at the arena one last time. The challenge had tested him physically, mentally, and emotionally, and he had proven not only his skill but the value of human determination. He had entered a world where humans were considered weak and left an impression that would be remembered for generations. The suns of Zithra dipped lower, casting long, shimmering shadows across the arena. The floating platforms reflected the light like liquid mirrors, and the city below buzzed with renewed energy and curiosity. Citizens whispered of the human who dared to challenge the princess, and the princess who dared to recognize him as an equal. Liara's eyes met Cole's, and in that glance, a silent understanding passed between them. This was only the beginning. The human had survived the trial, but the real tests of trust, cooperation, and facing the challenges of a galaxy filled with danger were yet to come. And so, as the sun set over the crystalline city, the trial ended, leaving behind a story of courage, ingenuity, and mutual respect that would shape the future of Zithara, and mark the beginning of an extraordinary alliance between human and alien. The city of Zithara was alive. With whispers the morning after the trial, citizens crowded the streets, retelling the story of the human who had challenged the princess and survived. Merchants paused in their work to discuss his ingenuity, children reenacted the battle on their floating platforms, and the elders debated what it meant for the kingdom. Few could remember a day when someone from another world had not only stood their ground against Princess Liara, but earned her respect. Liara walked through the palace gardens, her silver hair catching the sunlight. She moved with purpose, her mind heavy with thought. The trial had proven that Cole was exceptional, but it had also revealed a truth she could not ignore. Humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability could be both dangerous and powerful. She needed to understand him better, and perhaps learn how to use this potential to protect her people. Cole was already waiting in the palace courtyard, studying the intricate gardens and observing the palace guards as they moved in silent precision. He had spent the night analyzing what he had seen in the arena, thinking about the patterns of the platforms, the timing of Liara's attacks, and the ways he could anticipate challenges in the future. To him, the trial had been more than a battle. It had been an introduction to a world that operated on rules very different from his own, a world he wanted to understand, not conquer. Liara approached him, her footsteps quiet but firm. "You survived the trial," she said. "Not by strength alone, but by observation and ingenuity. That is unusual for humans. Most rely on brute force, yet you—" She paused, searching for the right words. "You are different," Cole nodded. "We adapt. Survival is about understanding, predicting, and acting. Strength matters, but not always in the way most expect." She studied him for a long moment. He was honest, and there was no arrogance in his tone, only confidence and calm determination. That was part of what made him so remarkable. "Very well," she said finally. "I would like you to accompany me on a diplomatic mission. There are neighboring systems that have begun to take notice of Zithara, and we must show strength through both diplomacy and strategy. You may have insights that I have not considered." Cole's brow lifted slightly. "I would be honored, Princess. I will do my best to help your people." And so a fragile alliance began. The citizens whispered again, some in approval, some in suspicion. Humans were strangers, and Liara's decision to include one in matters of diplomacy was controversial. Some council members questioned her judgment. Others, impressed by the human's performance in the trial, argued that his presence could be advantageous. As they prepared for the mission, Cole observed the palace and the city with careful attention. He noted the defense systems embedded in the walls, the patrol routes of the guards, and the mechanisms that maintained the floating platforms above the city. He did not interfere, only watched and learned. Zithara's technology was impressive, far beyond what most human worlds possessed, yet he understood that ingenuity often mattered more than sheer advancement. Liara briefed him on the mission. They were to visit the neighboring system of Vedra, a planet of desert plains and crystal canyons. Vedra had remained neutral in the past, but recent movements of a hostile alien empire suggested they might be drawn into conflict. The goal was to secure an alliance, to ensure that Vedra would stand with Zithara rather than against it. The journey to Vedra was tense but uneventful. Cole sat beside Liara on the sleek craft, observing her as she navigated diplomatic protocols. She was calm, polite, and precise, yet there was a sharpness in her mind that was impossible to ignore. She asked questions, considered responses, and calculated outcomes with the skill of a warrior and the mind of a strategist. Cole admired her discipline. He had faced leaders before, but few combined intelligence with combat skills so seamlessly. He realized that understanding Liara's thought process was as important as understanding the alien world itself. Trust would not come easily, but respect could be built, and he intended to earn both. When they arrived on Vedra, the situation was more complicated than expected. The ruling council was divided. Some favored Zithra, recognizing its strength and technological superiority. Others feared entanglement with a foreign empire, worried that siding with Zithra could make them a target. The council was not easily swayed, and tension filled the air. Cole observed quietly, taking note of the council members' reactions, their body language, and the subtle shifts in tone as Liara presented her arguments. He suggested strategies that complemented her approach, offering options that respected Vedra's autonomy while demonstrating Zithra's strength. His insights were subtle but effective, and Liara noticed the council responding positively. "You see patterns that even I miss at times," she said quietly during a break. "You understand people as well as you understand battle. That is unexpected." Cole smiled faintly. "Every world has rules, Princess. Understanding them is the first step to survival. And sometimes the rules are more flexible than they appear." Her gaze lingered on him. It was rare for Liara to admit that anyone had an advantage in perception or strategy. Yet with Cole, it was clear that his way of thinking complemented her own. Together, they could achieve far more than either could alone. As the diplomatic mission progressed, news arrived that shook the Vedran Council. Scouts reported that the hostile alien empire was mobilizing near the edge of Zitharan space. They were preparing an invasion, targeting key systems including Zithara and its allies. Panic spread quickly, and debates turned into urgent discussions of defense. Liara stood, her expression firm. "We must prepare. Diplomacy alone will not protect our people if war comes to our doorstep." Cole nodded. "Then we should act quickly. Understanding their strategy, predicting their movements, and using what we know of Zithara's strengths will be key. Humans have faced empires before. I can help." Together, they began to plan. They combined Zithara's technology with human tactics, blending rigid discipline with unpredictability. Cole suggested methods of rapid deployment, surprise attacks, and using terrain to their advantage. Liara adapted her own strategies, integrating his ideas into the existing defenses of Zithara. Despite the urgency, tension remained between them. Liara was proud and cautious, unwilling to give full trust to a human, while Cole was patient but persistent, demonstrating repeatedly that his insights were valuable. Their relationship was a careful balance of respect, challenge, and cautious cooperation. Over the next several days, they conducted simulations, tested strategies, and prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Citizens noticed the change in Liara's demeanor. She moved with purpose, her decisions informed by both her own instincts and Cole's guidance. Some were skeptical, questioning the reliance on a human, while others began to recognize the potential benefits of this unusual partnership. In private, Liara considered what Cole had taught her. He was more than just a warrior. He was a thinker, a strategist, and a leader in his own right. She realized that relying solely on tradition and strength might not be enough to protect her people. Humanity, with its unpredictability and resilience, could be an invaluable ally. Cole, too, reflected on the dynamics of the Zitharan people. He saw a civilization bound by rules and hierarchy, yet capable of greatness when open to new ideas. Liara herself was a symbol of both tradition and adaptability, a combination that made her formidable. He understood that earning her trust completely would take time, but he had made the first step by proving his skill in the arena and in diplomacy. As they prepared to return to Zithara, reports grew darker. The hostile empire had deployed fleets, and their forces were moving closer to Zitharan borders. The Council of Vedra agreed to provide limited support, influenced by Liara's authority and Cole's suggestions. It was a start, but not nearly enough. Back on Zithara, citizens watched as their princess returned with the human warrior. There was curiosity, admiration, and lingering doubt. Many wondered if Liara's decision to rely on a human was wise. Yet for those who had witnessed the trial, there was a sense of hope, a belief that the human's ingenuity could be the difference between survival and defeat. In the palace, Liara and Cole reviewed their plans in detail. They considered every possibility, every potential move the enemy might make. Cole suggested unconventional tactics, splitting small squads to target key installations, using the floating platforms to create choke points, and implementing decoy strategies to confuse the invading forces. Liara integrated these ideas into her traditional combat formations, creating a hybrid strategy that combined human unpredictability with Zitharan precision. The day before the invasion, they walked together through the city. Citizens paused to watch them, sensing the importance of the moment. Liara observed Cole interacting with her people, calm, respectful, and confident. He inspired trust without demanding it, a quality rare among outsiders. "You have changed the way I see my people," Liara said quietly as they reached the palace gardens. "And perhaps the way I see humanity," Cole smiled. "I do not seek to change anyone, I only show what is possible when courage and intelligence are combined. The rest is up to them." Liara nodded, understanding that their alliance was fragile but necessary. She could not ignore the reality of the threat, nor could she dismiss the value of a human who had already proven himself in battle and diplomacy. Together, they would face the approaching storm, and together, they would test the limits of what was possible when two worlds worked as one. The sun set over Zithara, casting golden light across the crystal spires and floating islands. In the distance, scouts reported glimpses of the enemy fleet, dark shapes moving with precision and purpose. The stage was set for conflict, and the princess and the human warrior prepared to lead their people into the greatest challenge the galaxy had seen. For the first time, Liara felt that the future was uncertain, but in a way that was exciting rather than frightening. With Cole by her side, she could face danger not just with skill, but with trust, ingenuity, and the knowledge that humans, despite their reputation, could rise to meet challenges beyond imagination. And so, the fragile alliance between alien and human solidified. Their cooperation was tentative, their mutual respect growing by the hour. The coming battle would test everything they had learned, and the galaxy itself would witness whether the strength of two worlds could overcome a threat greater than either could face alone. The skies above Zithara darkened as the enemy fleet approached. Ships larger than mountains drifted through the void, their black hulls glowing faintly with energy shields. Scouts reported that the hostile forces were vast, well-coordinated, and heavily armed. Citizens of the capital watched from the streets and floating platforms, fear and anxiety mixing with awe. Few had ever seen such a fleet, and the sense of impending danger was palpable. Princess Liara stood on the balcony of the palace, her silver armor gleaming in the fading sunlight. Beside her, Cole observed the incoming fleet with calm intensity. He had spent hours analyzing their formation, predicting their movements, and preparing strategies that combined Zitharan precision with human adaptability. "This is larger than we anticipated," Liara said, her voice steady but tense. "They outnumber us." "Our traditional formations alone will not hold," Cole nodded. "Quantity isn't everything. They are predictable in some ways. They rely on overwhelming force, coordination, and speed. We can exploit that using mobility, traps, and surprise." Liara studied him carefully. "Your strategies are unconventional. Zitharans might not follow them willingly." "I understand," Cole said, "but survival will depend on flexibility. If we stick to tradition, we lose. If we adapt, we fight another day." She considered this and gave a curt nod. "Very well. Then we adapt." The fleet began to descend, energy weapons glowing as they prepared to strike. Zitharan defenses activated, barriers flickering to life and energy cannons aligning on strategic points. The first wave of enemy ships fired, and the city shook as powerful blasts struck the floating platforms. Citizens screamed, running for cover, while the palace guards moved with precision to maintain order. Cole and Liara coordinated from the palace command center. Using holographic maps, they directed squads to critical points, combining Zitharan firepower with human tactics. Cole suggested splitting smaller squads to intercept enemy boarding parties, using terrain and platform elevation to create choke points. Liara adapted these suggestions, assigning elite units to cover and counterattack. The first confrontation occurred above the central plaza. Enemy dropships descended, carrying soldiers and siege equipment. Zitharan defenders engaged, energy blades clashing against alien armor. Cole moved among the squads, offering tactical guidance, predicting enemy flanks, and identifying weak points in their formation. He did not fight directly at first, instead observing and instructing, ensuring that every move minimized casualties and maximized efficiency. Liara, meanwhile, led her personal guard into the fray. She moved like a storm, her blade striking with precision, her armor reflecting energy blasts. Every strike was calculated, forcing enemy soldiers back and creating openings for her squads to advance. Her movements were a combination of grace and lethal efficiency, but even she recognized the value of Cole's insight. His guidance allowed her forces to anticipate attacks she could not see from her position. The battle escalated quickly. Enemy fleets began to bombard strategic points across the city, and dropships attempted to land troops on floating platforms. Citizens were evacuated, guided by Zitharan guards, while Cole and Liara coordinated countermeasures. Using decoy platforms and energy barriers, they funneled enemy soldiers into traps. Small squads, following Cole's tactics, struck critical installations, disabling weapons and creating confusion. At one point, Cole observed a large group of enemy soldiers preparing to breach the palace gates. He signaled to Liara, who immediately responded. She and a squad of elite guards moved to intercept, cutting through enemy ranks with precision. Cole joined the fray strategically, targeting the enemy's command units and disrupting their coordination. His movements were fluid and efficient, combining speed, observation, and timing. The citizens watched in awe as the human and princess fought side by side. They were a vision of unity and skill, blending strength, strategy, and courage. Many realized that this alliance between human and alien might be the key to survival. Despite their efforts, the enemy adapted quickly. A massive command ship deployed additional troops, shifting the balance of the battle. Energy blasts struck critical platforms, forcing defenders to retreat and regroup. The city trembled under the assault and panic threatened to spread. Cole remained calm. He had anticipated this escalation and quickly adjusted the strategy. Smaller squads were redirected to cut off supply lines, while decoys distracted the main force. He moved with purpose, using high platforms and narrow pathways to bypass enemy strength, striking at weak points and creating openings for the defenders. Liara noticed the shift. The humans' tactics were not random. They were deliberate, exploiting every advantage the enemy provided. She followed his lead, coordinating her squads to strike simultaneously from multiple angles. Together, they turned the tide in the central plaza, forcing enemy soldiers to retreat to their dropships. The battle was not over. Enemy commanders adapted, deploying mechanized units that towered over Zitharan defenders. Energy shields absorbed conventional attacks, and brute force seemed unstoppable. Liara realized that defeating them required more than strength, it required ingenuity. She turned to Cole, seeking guidance. Cole studied the mechanized units, observing their movement patterns and vulnerabilities. "We cannot overpower them directly," he said. "We must outthink them, use mobility and the terrain, force them into positions where their size becomes a disadvantage." Liara nodded. She coordinated her squads, instructing them to lure the machines into narrow corridors and onto unstable platforms. The plan required precision and timing, but it was the only way to counter the overwhelming force. The mechanized units followed the bait, stepping onto narrow floating platforms. With careful coordination, energy pulses were directed to destabilize the platforms, causing several units to topple into the void. The citizens below cheered as the threat was reduced, and Zitharan defenders gained momentum. Meanwhile, Cole identified the enemy commander directing the battle. He realized that defeating this one figure could cripple the entire operation. Moving swiftly through the chaos, he reached the command point and engaged the commander in direct combat. It was a clash of strength, speed, and tactics. Cole's human ingenuity allowed him to anticipate attacks and exploit the commander's rigid style. The fight was intense. Energy blades clashed, sparks flying as they struck each other's armor. Cole dodged, countered, and finally delivered a decisive blow that incapacitated the enemy commander. Without direction, the enemy forces faltered, retreating to regroup. Liara witnessed the final strike and felt a surge of respect. The human had not only survived the battlefield, but had turned it in their favor. His actions had saved countless lives and demonstrated the value of adaptability, courage, and intelligence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the enemy fleet retreated, leaving behind a city scarred but victorious. Citizens emerged cautiously from hiding, cheering for their defenders. The floating platforms, damaged but intact, reflected the golden light of the setting suns. Liara and Cole stood together, surveying the aftermath. Her armor was scratched, her blade slightly scorched, but she stood tall. Cole's clothing was singed in places, and his boots covered in debris, but he remained calm and composed. They had fought as a team, combining alien strength with human ingenuity, and emerged victorious. For the first time, Liara allowed herself to acknowledge the value of the human beside her. "You have done more than I expected," she said quietly. "Your actions have saved countless lives. I respect your skill, your mind, and your courage." Cole inclined his head respectfully. "Thank you, Princess. I only did what I could to help. The people, your leadership, and the defenders, everyone contributed." Strategy matters, but unity matters more. They walked through the city together, observing the cleanup and assisting with minor repairs. Citizens approached them, offering gratitude and admiration. Many whispered that this battle would be remembered for generations, the day a human fought alongside the princess and helped defend Zithra. In the palace, Liara convened her council. She praised the defenders, acknowledged Cole's contributions, and emphasized the importance of cooperation between humans and Zitharans. While some council members remained skeptical, most recognized the truth. Cole's presence had been invaluable, and the alliance between human and alien had been tested and proven. That night, Liara stood on her balcony, gazing at the stars. Cole joined her silently, watching the calm after the storm. The city was safe for now, but the threat of the hostile empire still loomed. "You fought well today," she said, her tone reflective. "Not just with skill, but with foresight. You've changed the way I see humans." Cole smiled faintly. "I only hope to show what is possible when we face challenges together. Strength is important, but understanding and courage make the difference." Liara nodded, feeling a rare sense of calm. The battle had been won, but she knew that peace was temporary. The galaxy was vast, filled with threats and opportunities alike. Yet with humans like Cole at her side, she felt that Zithra could face the future with confidence. The citizens of Zithra celebrated, their voices echoing across the city. Children played on repaired floating platforms, merchants reopened their stalls, and the palace guards patrolled with renewed vigilance. Life was returning to normal, but the story of the human warrior who had stood beside the princess would live on, inspiring others to believe in courage, ingenuity, and the power of alliance. As the night settled, Liara and Cole looked out over the city together. The suns had set, but the lights of the crystal spires reflected the hope and resilience of a people who had faced impossible odds. The battle was won, but the galaxy awaited, filled with challenges that would test every skill, every strategy, and every ounce of courage. And for the first time, Liara felt that humans were more than outsiders. They were partners, capable of standing equal to the mightiest warriors of Zithra. The future, uncertain and dangerous, now held promise, built on respect, courage, and unity. The city of Zithra glowed under the light of its twin moons. Floating platforms hummed softly as repair crews worked to restore the damage from the battle. Citizens moved cautiously at first, then with growing confidence, reassured by the presence of their leaders and defenders. The memory of the attack was fresh, but so too was the knowledge that they had survived, and that survival had come through unity, courage, and ingenuity. Princess Liara walked through the city alongside Cole. The streets were filled with citizens offering nods of respect, curious glances, and words of gratitude. Children followed at a distance, mimicking the moves they had seen in the arena and the battle, pretending to fight alongside the human warrior who had captured the imagination of the planet. Merchants spoke quietly about new trade opportunities, inspired by the recent events. Liara's expression was thoughtful. She had fought many battles, faced countless challengers, and witnessed numerous displays of skill and courage. Yet none had made her feel the way Cole had, not simply because he survived, but because he had earned respect through intelligence, observation, and courage. He had shown her, and her people that strength was not limited to Zitharan warriors alone. Cole moved quietly, observing the citizens. He noted their expressions, the subtle gestures of trust and appreciation. He did not seek recognition, he was not there for glory. His focus had always been on survival, on understanding, and on ensuring that the people he assisted could thrive. Yet he felt a quiet pride in seeing the results of their efforts, a city safe, citizens inspired, and a leader who had embraced the value of partnership across worlds. "Your people are resilient," Cole said quietly, glancing at Liara. "Even after everything, they continue. They rebuild, that is something humans understand. It is not just survival, it is perseverance." Liara nodded. "Yes, they are strong, but today they have seen what is possible when they act together, when we embrace new ideas. You have helped them and me see that." Their steps brought them to the palace, where the council had gathered to review the aftermath of the battle. Liara addressed the advisors, recounting the events, the strategies employed, and the decisions made. She acknowledged the role of human ingenuity and courage in turning the tide, something that many on the council had initially questioned. Cole stood beside her as she spoke. He did not intervene unless asked, allowing Liara to maintain authority while subtly guiding discussions with insights when necessary. The council listened carefully, noting the effectiveness of combining human unpredictability with Zitharan discipline. Slowly, skepticism began to give way to cautious respect. After the council meeting, Liara and Cole walked through the palace gardens. The twin moons reflected off the crystalline walls, casting long shadows across the plants and walkways. The air was cool and still, a momentary peace before the larger challenges that awaited in the galaxy. "You have changed more than the outcome of a battle," Liara said quietly. "You have changed the way I see people beyond our world. Humans are capable of more than I imagined." Cole smiled faintly. "I only show what is possible when we refuse to give up. Strength alone is not enough. Understanding, courage, and action matter too. The rest is choice." Liara considered his words carefully. Choice. Humans had survived not because they were stronger, but because they made choices that others would not. Choices guided by intuition, creativity, and resolve. She realized that this principle could be applied to her people, to her decisions, and to the way she led. In the following days, Zithra began to repair itself. Buildings were restored, platforms stabilized, and the energy grid rebuilt. Citizens participated actively, inspired by the knowledge that they had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. Cole helped train select squads in tactical flexibility, showing them how to adapt in unexpected situations rather than relying solely on brute strength. Liara observed quietly, noting how quickly her people learned from him. The alien warriors were disciplined, precise, and powerful, but human strategies, adaptability, improvisation, and observation added a new dimension to their combat readiness. She realized that the future of her planet could be stronger with humans as allies, not just guests or strangers. One evening, as the sun set on the horizon, Liara invited Cole to the highest platform in the palace. From there, they could see the entire city, the floating islands, and the glowing spires. The damage from the battle was visible, but so too was the resilience of her people. Citizens moved confidently, rebuilding and celebrating small victories. "You have done more than any human could be expected to do," Liara said. "You fought, you strategized, and you saved lives. For that, I am grateful." Cole shook his head slightly. "I did not do it alone. Your people fought bravely. You led them. You made the hard choices. I only added a perspective that might have been missing. The rest is yours." Liara regarded him, the cool night wind lifting her hair. "Perhaps, but the truth is, humans have something we do not always see. Creativity, adaptability, courage that does not rely on tradition or hierarchy. Today, you have proven that humanity has value beyond what I imagined." The two stood in silence, watching the city below. The hum of energy systems, the soft chatter of citizens, and the glow of lights reflected a sense of hope and accomplishment. For a moment, the galaxy beyond seemed distant, unthreatening, and filled with possibility. Then came reports from the outer systems. While Zithra had survived the initial attack, the hostile empire was regrouping. Fleets were being rebuilt, resources gathered, and new strategies devised. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Liara and Cole reviewed the intelligence together. "They will return," she said, her voice firm. Stronger, more prepared, we must ensure our people are ready, Cole nodded. We have learned much from this encounter. Next time we can anticipate more, adapt faster, and protect more lives. Humanity has survived empires before. We will do it again with your people by our side. Liara felt a sense of resolve. For the first time, she understood the true value of alliance, not just between individuals, but between worlds. She also realized that courage could come in many forms, through strength, strategy, or the willingness to stand and fight when odds seemed impossible. In the weeks that followed, Zithra strengthened its defenses. Cole trained squads alongside Zithran warriors, blending human tactics with alien precision. New protocols were developed, communication lines improved, and rapid deployment units prepared for future attacks. Citizens participated in simulations, learning to adapt quickly rather than relying solely on tradition. The human and the princess became symbols of unity. Stories of their partnership spread throughout the city and beyond. Citizens spoke of the day a human had challenged the princess and survived, of the day they had fought together to defend their home. These stories inspired hope and courage, reminding people that survival was not only about strength, it was about determination, creativity, and trust. Liara reflected on the lessons learned. Leadership was more than issuing orders. It was understanding, adapting, and valuing different perspectives. Cole had taught her this, not by words alone, but by example, in battle and in strategy. She felt a rare sense of humility, acknowledging that no single individual, no matter how skilled, could protect a world alone. Cole, for his part, continued to respect the customs and discipline of Zithra while subtly influencing positive change. He encouraged observation, creativity, and cooperation, showing that humans and Zithrans could complement each other rather than clash. Slowly, trust grew among the citizens and soldiers alike. As months passed, the city flourished. Trade resumed, cultural exchanges expanded, and citizens became more confident in their ability to face future threats. The memory of the enemy fleet remained, but it was tempered by pride and resilience. The human warrior and the alien princess had shown them that unity and courage could overcome even the most daunting challenges. One evening, as the twin moons rose high in the sky, Liara and Cole stood on the palace balcony once more. The city below shimmered with light, the floating platforms glinting like stars. The citizens moved with confidence, a society strengthened not just by victory, but by understanding and adaptation. "You have done more than survive," Liara said softly. "You have changed the way we see ourselves and each other. Humans are no longer outsiders here. You have shown that our worlds can work together, that our strengths can complement each other." Cole nodded. "I only hope that the future allows us to continue learning from each other. Strength, courage, and wisdom come in many forms. Together we can face what comes next." Liara smiled faintly. "Yes, together." As the moons cast their glow over the city, a new era began. One of alliance, respect, and courage that transcended worlds. The human warrior who had refused to submit and the princess who had learned to see beyond tradition stood together, ready to face the galaxy's challenges side by side. In the distance, scouts reported faint movements of the hostile empire, but there was no fear in Zithra's leaders or its citizens. They had faced the impossible and survived. They had learned that courage was not measured by size, strength, or species, but by the willingness to act, adapt, and trust in one another. Liara placed a hand on Cole's shoulder. "The battle is over, but the galaxy is vast. There will be more challenges, more trials. Are you ready to face them?" Cole's eyes reflected determination and calm resolve. "I have faced worse. Together we will stand. Humanity and Zithra will face the future as allies." The wind stirred softly around them, carrying the hum of the city and the hope of its people. Above, the floating islands glimmered in the moonlight, and the crystal spires reflected promise and possibility. The future was uncertain, filled with danger but also with opportunity. And for the first time, Liara knew that she would not face it alone. As they looked out over the city, side by side, the story of courage, unity, and human ingenuity came to life. A human had challenged a princess, survived, and earned respect. A princess had learned to trust an outsider, to embrace ingenuity beyond tradition, and to see the potential of alliance across worlds. The galaxy awaited, vast and unpredictable. But on Zithra, hope had been restored, and a partnership forged in battle, strategy, and mutual respect would shape the future. And so the human warrior and the alien princess prepared to face what came next, not as separate worlds, but as allies ready to protect, adapt, and triumph together.